When it comes to this subject matter, people may have their own biases because we are different, right? And what pleases one may not please the other. So people have their own nuances, what they call ideal or normal to be them. However, I'm only here to present my view also. Number one, anything that makes you so addicted in an unhealthy way, to the extent where you can't have total control over it, I don't think you are doing yourself any good if you find yourself in that situation, right? So some people use it innocently. Some give the excuses that, oh, in the absence of my partner, I can masturbate, right? Or when I need my partner urgently, but she's in a period, or my partner has traveled and all of that, and I can't wait. So what do I do? So I may use it here and there. But you see, if it happens continuously, that is when it becomes an addiction. And when it gets into the realm of addiction, that means that you are no longer in control of when and how to do it, right? So in the presence of your spouse, you will still find yourself entangled in those situations. And in an instance especially where you thought you had total control over the thing, you realize that, it's not really as it seems. You are now becoming a slave to whether sex toys or whether masturbation or whether whatever it is. You are becoming a slave to it, where you are struggling to even overcome it and deal with it. So that is why I would say it is not the safest choice. It's not the best of choice to use, because you will end up becoming addicted. And there are a lot of people who start innocently. It's like everyday things. It's like smoking, right? It's like drinking. People say, oh, one thought a day doesn't change anything. One glass of wine doesn't change anything, until you become addicted to it, to the extent that you can't stop it, to the extent that you can't do anything around it, until you involve experts and counselors. And sometimes in extreme cases, it becomes chronic, that prayers and deliverance must be casted before you can be healed entirely. So I don't think it's the best and the safest choice to make. Secondly, anything that can serve as a temporary relief, preventing you from actually bonding with your partner, I don't think is the best of choice, right? So that thing can become a third party, where in cases where you're having issues and struggling with your partner, you can use those things to replace the presence and the activeness of your partner, right? I don't think it's also the best, because really, you are supposed to live to cleave. You are supposed to live to weave. But if this is the situation where you are having sex toys and you can masturbate, and sometimes you go to the extreme of cheating on your partner and all, and those things becomes like a secondary or a backup to you. So that in instances where you are having issues with your partner, instead of you to resolve the issue so that you can come together and have intimacy, you think you can replace your partner's presence or the desires you are having now, you can satisfy them with these external things, instead of trying to make peace with your partner at all costs, so that both of you can enjoy intimacy together. So number one, you are getting addicted to it if you go that tangent. Number two, you are gradually using these things to replace the presence of your partner. And you may argue, I know a lot of people argue when it comes to this things. I just don't feel it's the safest one to do. If your partner is the only option and choice you have to pleasure yourself, that means in times of misunderstanding and issues here and there, you still find a way to resolve the issue, because you desire intimacy with your partner, you desire pleasure with your partner. You wouldn't think of masturbating, you wouldn't think of watching pornography, you wouldn't think of using sex toys, because you must need settle this issue with your partner if you want to enjoy pleasure and intimacy. But if these things are present, to hell with your partner, because you can still find your way to be satisfied. So that is why, to me, I don't think it's the safest choice to actually go, or is the best route to take. But you can still share your view with me. Let me know what you also think about such dynamic. Oh, wow. So there are layers to it, okay? Ordinarily, you see, every relationship should have that element of trust as the foundation. And one of the things that breeds trust is transparency, right? It's honesty. And there's even a thin line between honesty and transparency. Honesty is when your partner confronts you about a certain issue or asks you about a certain issue and you tell them the truth, right? But transparency is when you go out of your way to tell your partner what the issue is before your partner even finds out. And sometimes nothing is cast in iron. Sometimes it may be the case that you forgot. That is why your partner came to ask you. But ideally, you should be the one to report yourself or to report the issue to your partner before they find out. So on that premise, when it comes to issues with phone and all, now if you guys are not married, yes, we may need to still respect certain boundaries, okay? Because you guys are not fully committed yet. You guys are not fully committed. You guys have not tied the knots. You've not promised each other before many witnesses and before the altar that for better for worse, right? So there will still be a certain level of boundary. You can't have 100% access to your partner's phone because you guys are not married. However, their ability to give you access to the things around them, their gadgets, their phones, their friends and families and all of that also tells or gives a positive outlook about who they are, okay? So they are not under compulsion to give you access to their phone 100%. However, if their ability or the lack of it to give you that access will also help you to access whether this person is actually has a good character, has a good attitude, and you can journey this path with them. Because they can also tell you things like they are really not under compulsion to give you their phone, which is true. But if they are so hell-bent on that issue, then it may mean that they may not be fully transparent even when you guys get married, right? So you are using this to still test the waters and see whether they are going to fully fledged be vulnerable with you in the course of time or not. However, I want you to understand, if you guys are not married, then they are not under any compulsion whatsoever to expose everything to you 100% like that. Especially, we are talking about phone here and passwords and all of those things. But like I said, their ability or willingness to expose these things to you, even premaritally, tells you that, okay, then there may be something good here to explore because they are not under compulsion, yet they decide to give you the full access, okay? Now, if you are suspicious about the reason why they don't want to give you their phone, then you need to ask yourself two questions. Are you having an insecure issue yourself? So, piggybacking into your past, have you had any trauma kind of? Have you been disappointed kind of? Have you been cheated kind of? Has your parents' marriage or your guardian marriage affected you negatively in a way? So if you are battling with self-esteem and insecurity issues and trust issues on your own, then it may mean that you are projecting that onto your partner just because they refuse to give you access to their phone, because you are having an imaginary perception about something that realistically may not exist. In my native language, they say something like, that means if you continue to pry into something, you are prying into it, you will definitely find what you are looking for, okay? So yes, if it's a self-insecure issue, then you need to work on it. You need to work at it so that you can deal with it. However, if your partner is also giving off certain vibes and certain attitude that makes it suspicious or that makes you question their integrity and their character, then go beyond the phone and have that dialogue with them. Go beyond the phone and have that discussion with them to know whether, you see, you are just confirming your suspicion or your assumptions, because in most cases they may be mere assumptions that you are trying to project on them. In some cases, yet it may be true, but you can't conclude from a distance or from afar because you think you know them so well and there has been a sudden change in behavior. You have concluded that means they are cheating or they are hiding something negative or evil on their phone, and or you can't know that until you hold a conversation with them. So I'd rather you look past the phone to sit down and have conversation with them. Chances are the relationship itself, it's at the brink of getting devastated, or it's at the brink of falling apart, or certain things may be going on that you see you can't assume that it exists until you've questioned them, until you've confronted them, until you've asked them, because it may go beyond the phone. There may be issues that needs to be unpacked in their life. There may be certain phases or transition they are going on or they are dealing with in their life that you need to have that conversation with them to know what is even going on and where they are at in their head, so that you can gradually learn to unpack some of these things. But you can't outrightly just fly out put any blame or suspicion on them just because they are refusing to give you their phone. It may go beyond the phone. There may be other pressing things that you are not even paying attention to that may even be dire and more consequential than the phone that they are refusing to give to you, right? So if you're having a trust issue, you need to unpack those things with a counselor or a therapist or with a mentor or an accountability partner to help you unpack your emotions and know why you are struggling. If it is your partner that is giving off that energy or that vibe, then you need to have a conversation with your partner. And if it looks like both of you can resolve the issue, then you can also reach out to myself and my team. You can also talk to an accountability partner, talk to a therapist or a coach to help both of you unpack what's actually going on here. But I'm here to tell you that it may go beyond they not giving their phone to you. And sometimes I've seen guys especially tell me that the mere fact that you question them about their phone or you wanted to look into their phone at all costs makes them harden, makes them cantankerous, and even if there is nothing on the phone, they'll deliberately not give the phone to you. They'll deliberately not give you access to the phone because of how you are coming off. You're already suspecting them. You're already giving off the negative vibe or the negative energy that there's something suspicious going here. So one guy told me that, Godwin, I'll be honest with you, there is nothing suspicious on my phone. There is nothing on my phone. But because of how she wants the phone badly, I don't know what she has heard from outside. I don't know what my friends or other friends have told her. But she's really hell-bent on knowing what's going on my phone. And that is why I've refused to give it to her. Not because there's anything bad there, but I've decided I'll not give it to her because she doesn't trust me and all of that. Yes, so you see, we can delve into it. So what are you doing that is making it difficult for her to not to trust you and all of those things? However, maybe I just have to end it here. If you want to unpack more, maybe you can reach out to me in my mail and we will delve deeper. Okay. I may step on some toes here if I need to answer this question. There is a lot that goes into it. However, because of the Q&A, so I may not be able to delve into it. We may put up a masterclass or a whole session to discuss this, okay? However, yes, a lot of women say that their men are not vulnerable and all of that. And as a coach, I've come to understand that people do not do things just in a vacuum. They do things because of, okay? There are lots of mental processes that goes on before an action is initiated. So a lot of women are complaining that their men are not being vulnerable. However, if you really look into it, he is not being vulnerable with you because you don't qualify for it yet. Largely speaking, men always want to keep things to themselves. They see being vulnerable and being expressive about how they feel as a weakness, okay, as a result of how society has put so much expectation on them. So they become difficult to be vulnerable and express their emotions and where they are at every particular point in time. So that is why you really need to qualify for that vulnerability. And yes, societally speaking, it looks like a lot of men or most men are not really vulnerable with their emotions, but if you should speak to their other male friends, their male colleagues, their bosom male friends and all, you realize that they share a lot with these male friends that they may probably share with you. And the difference is because of how the male friend will favorably respond to them and how you would disfavorably react to them when they are vulnerable with you. Some men are again scared of being vulnerable because they may think you will play that game with them. Whenever there is an issue and misunderstanding, you will bring forth that weakness or that vulnerability they shared with you as a weapon against them. Whereas their fellow men wouldn't necessarily do that to them. So it is not that they are not being vulnerable with you. It is not that they are not being vulnerable. They are probably not being vulnerable with you. And they say that a lot. Myself as a man, we say that a lot because we think that, are you creating that safe space for us to be vulnerable? Are you combative? Are you rebuttal? Are you defensive? Will you cry and burst into tears and deflect all that we really want to share with you? Or you are going to respect them, you are going to respond favorably to them, and even if you disagree, are you going to validate our feelings and later share your concern about the same things we shared with you? And also, it's a tough question to just answer whether women are not really up for men's vulnerability. However, that women should learn how or why men would rather be vulnerable with their fellow men than be vulnerable with you, their lady. There may be some actions or inactions you are putting through that is not creating the safe space and a safe haven for them to be vulnerable with you. but they'll be vulnerable to their fellow men. So men really may not be vulnerable to women, but they are actually vulnerable one way or the other, and they may express it in a language you may not really understand because you've not taken time to study your man to know how he expresses his emotions, how he feels about certain issues, and his vulnerability. So I would rather you have a sit-down conversation with your partner and ask him what are certain things he requires or needs from you to create that safe space for him to be vulnerable with you. And I believe that as we unpack all of these things, it will help us create a healthy life and a worthy relationship. And I wish your relationship all the best. So you can also share your view on this question. Do you think women are really up for men's vulnerability? What do you think are some things women are really doing that is preventing men from being vulnerable with their women? Until then, I'll see you again.